Today we're going to talk about something that's always been debated in the hip-hop world, but never really had a spotlight of its own. We're talking about the big three of rap, decade by decade. Now, if this video feels familiar, you're not wrong. I actually made a video on this topic before, but this right here, this is the definitive version. More detailed, more accurate, and honestly, just a better take overall. So if you're one of the real ones who saw that original drop, show some love and drop a like to let me know you're still tapped in.
Before we dive in, please give the video a like and consider subscribing, because I would really appreciate it. With that being said, let's dive back in.
Now, when we say big three, we're not talking about no award show, no official Billboard ranking. The big three has always been more of an unspoken thing among fans. It's the three rappers who shaped the sound, the culture, and the conversations of their time. Not just who sold the most or got the most streams, but who really ran the decade. It wasn't until J. Cole dropped that bar on First Person Shooter that the idea actually felt solidified. When he said, "We the big three like we started a league," he wasn't lying. Him, Kendrick, and Drake made it real. So today, we're going back through time and deciding who the true big three were for every era of hip-hop. We're starting with the 2010s, then throwing it all the way back to the 80s, coming up through the 90s, the 2000s, and finishing off with where we stand in the 2020s. Let's get into it. First up, the 2010s. And this one honestly picks itself. The trio that ran this decade was so dominant that even they acknowledged it themselves. Drake, Kendrick Lamar, and J. Cole. These three didn't just drop music. They created movements. They shaped how the internet talked, how playlists sounded, and how younger artists structured their whole careers. Drake became the face of mainstream rap. Whether he was crooning over a moody beat or delivering Instagram caption-ready bars, he controlled the radio like nobody else. The man was dropping albums, singles, Lucy's, and features like a machine. From Thank Me Later to Take Care, Nothing Was the Same, Views, and Scorpion, every release was a moment. He had the hit-making formula on lock and kept his finger on the culture's pulse the entire decade. Kendrick Lamar, on the other hand, brought depth back to the mainstream. From the raw energy of Section 80 to the storytelling masterpiece that is Good Kid, M.A.A.D. City, and then the cultural earthquake that was To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick proved that you could go platinum with a message. He was the voice of protest, of perspective, of poetry, and he rapped it all in flawless delivery and complex structure. Nobody rapped like Kendrick in the 2010s, period. Then you got J. Cole, the silent giant, the underdog that became a generational icon. Cole started out as the guy fighting to get noticed and ended the decade as the people's champ. His come-up was authentic. His albums from 2014 Forest Hills Drive to KOD and Born Center reflected growth and maturity. Cole became a household name without chasing radio hits or gimmicks, just bars, introspection, and real-life relatability. The 2010s were their playground. Nobody else even came close. But there were still heavy names doing damage. People like A$AP Rocky, who brought style and fashion to the forefront. Tyler, the Creator, who started off wild and chaotic, but evolved into one of the most unique and artistic minds in rap. Future, who helped define the trap sound and gave us run after run of mixtape classics. Travis Scott built an empire, and Big Sean, Wale, Meek Mill, they all had runs that could have defined a different era, but for the 2010s, the big three is crystal clear. Now, let's rewind way back to where this all began, the 1980s. The 80s were the foundation. The streets were the studio, and hip-hop was still proving it deserved a place at the table. But out of all the voices from that era, three names stood tall. LL Cool J was the first true solo rap superstar. Young, brash, and confident, LL showed that a rapper could be both a sex symbol and a lyrical threat. His debut album, Radio, shifted the game and made rap commercially viable in a way it hadn't been before. He brought charisma to the mic, wore the gold chains with pride, and had longevity that would carry into the next decade. Run MDC were more than a rap group. They were pioneers. They took streetwear to the mainstream, merged rock and rap with their Aerosmith collaboration, and made hip-hop a global movement. Their stage presence was electric, and their style was raw and aggressive. Run MDC brought a certain toughness and pride to the art form that made them legends in their own right. And then came NWA, the group that ripped the veil off what was really happening in the streets of Compton. Their music wasn't just controversial, it was revolutionary. Straight Outta Compton wasn't just an album, it was a wake-up call. Ice Cube's pen, Eazy-E's delivery, Dre's production, it all came together in a way that permanently changed the sound and direction of hip-hop. Without NWA, we wouldn't have had half of the West Coast's influence in the years that followed. There were others, of course, Grandmaster Flash, Rakim, KRS-One, Public Enemy, but when it comes to who carried the 80s into the mainstream and made the biggest cultural dent, LL Cool J, Run MDC, and NWA. That's your big three. Now, let's move forward into the 90s, the golden era, the decade that most hip-hop heads still call the greatest. The big three of the 90s isn't just a list, it's a trinity of legends. Tupac, the Notorious B.I.G., Nas. Tupac was more than a rapper. He was a revolutionary, a poet, a prophet. He rapped about pain, injustice, love, rage. He gave you the entire human experience in 16 bars. His presence was powerful, his words were sharp, and his influence eternal. Pac became the voice of the voiceless, whether he was dropping emotional tracks like Dear Mama or riding for his people on Changes. Then you have Biggie, Brooklyn's finest, the most effortless flow the game has ever seen. Biggie could tell a story, paint a picture, and make you laugh in the same verse. Ready to Die is arguably one of the greatest debut albums in hip-hop history, and Life After Death just cemented what he already proved. His charisma, wordplay, and swagger were unmatched. Biggie made rapping sound easy, and it never is. Nas was the technician, the lyricist, the chosen one. At just 20 years old, he dropped Illmatic, and the rap game was never the same. Every line, every beat choice, every flow pattern, it was surgical. Nas made you listen. He brought New York back to its lyrical roots and inspired an entire generation of MCs to take the pen seriously. Honorable mentions? Absolutely. DMX came in late in the decade and had the game in a chokehold. Ice Cube transitioned from NWA into solo greatness with politically charged, street-hardened albums. And Jay-Z, who technically started in '96, was already laying the foundation for what would become one of the greatest careers in music history. The 90s belonged to Pac, Biggie, and Nas. And even though the decade ended with two of them gone, their influence never left. Now we enter the wildest one yet, the 2000s. This was a decade so stacked, we gotta split it in half. The early 2000s and the late 2000s each had their own big three. Early 2000s, you had Eminem, Jay-Z, and OutKast. Eminem came in like a nuclear bomb. His shock value, his pen game, his delivery, nobody saw him coming. The Marshall Mathers LP, the Eminem Show, and even 8 Mile made him more than just a rapper. He was a pop culture icon. He was controversial, sure, but there's no denying the skill level and the impact. Jay-Z was already buzzing in the late 90s, but the 2000s were where he became a mogul. Blueprint 1 and 2, Black Album, and a retirement that didn't even last long. He made being a businessman and a rapper look easy. His influence stretched from the booth to the boardroom. OutKast were aliens. They weren't just ahead of their time, they were on another planet. Andre 3000 and Big Boy pushed the boundaries of what rap could be. Stankonia and Speakerboxxx Love Below showed just how experimental and creative you could get while still going multi-platinum. Then in the late 2000s, the sound started shifting, and 3 new giants stepped in. Lil Wayne went from promising talent to absolute dominance. His mixtape run, his features, and the Carter 3 made him a living legend. Every rapper in the 2010s credits Lil Wayne in some way. Kanye West was a creative force like no other. Graduation, Late Registration, 808s and Heartbreak, every album was a new sound, a new era, a new influence. Kanye made fashion, emotion, and production part of the rap narrative. And then there was 50 Cent. When Get Rich or Tryin' dropped, the game stopped. He had the gangster image, the hit records, the street story, and the backing of Eminem and Dre. For a few years, nobody was bigger. The 2000s had so many names we gotta shout out. Ludacris, with the animated flows and huge hits. T.I., who crowned himself King of the South. Missy Elliott, who pushed visuals and sound to the next level. And of course, The Game, Jeezy, and others who kept regional scenes alive and poppin'. Now we land in the present day, the 2020s. This one's hard to lock in because we're still in it. The big three of this decade hasn't really settled yet. Some fans believe we had it early on, with Juice WRLD, XXXTentacion, and Pop Smoke leading the charge for a new generation. But sadly, they all passed away far too soon. Their impact was real, but the time wasn't enough to shape the full decade. Others believe that the next big three are spiritual successors of the 2010s big three. Baby Keem coming from Kendrick's camp, J.I.D., mentored by Cole, and either Travis Scott or 21 Savage standing close to Drake's shadow. It's a cool theory, and there's some truth to it, but there's a problem. Baby Keem's talent is there, no doubt, but his output has been inconsistent. J.I.D. is slept on, even though he raps better than half the game. Travis is divisive now. 21 is evolving, but still not fully embraced in that legend tier. So really, it's still up in the air, and that's where you come in. Drop your big three of the 2020s so far in the comments. And while you're at it, let me know, would you change any of the names from the other decades? This is hip-hop history, and we're still writing it.